We don't call it cannabis, first of all. That's fucking weird. It's called this shit weed, bro. Cannabis is these corporate ass, bitch ass motherfuckers that do these seminars. My first memory from marijuana was probably about 5 years old. My mother's brother was my roommate. He was about 16. And I remember this smell in my room. There was always this smell, you know what I mean? He was a hippie. He had 8-track tapes against the wall stacked. He had velvet posters with black lights. He had lava lamps. He had beads, and there was a smell. I could never figure out what the smell was. And I would always see him smoking these little funny looking cigarettes, you know what I mean? So that was my introduction to it. And I probably got contact high in kindergarten all the time. I did like the smell. It was just different. And then there was always that smell, and then there was always this other smell. He burned incense. And it wasn't until later on that I realized, oh, that motherfucker was smoking weed, and the incense was to kill the smell. But I would always walk in on him. Yeah, I was 12 years old. I remember smoking the first time I smoked weed. It wasn't actually a joint though. The first time we smoked weed, it was with the car lighter, the old ones that in the car you pushed it and it came out and it was hot. And you put the weed in it and you go like this, put your hand over it and go. That was the first time I smoked weed, and I giggled for like 4 hours. I just laughed my ass off. I was cracking the fuck up. No, because it was always there. Like, my friends always sold weed. Like, it was always in my circle. Like, just my homies always sold weed. So then I started smoking weed a lot. But nickel bags were like fucking this big. But they had stems and seeds in them. You get a nickel bag full of seeds, full of stems, and we'd smoke in the bathroom. We had like the whole football field for lunch. Everybody would go sit in different parts. We'd go way to the end of the football field and smoke. You know what I mean? And get some Banaka blast after. Hit the Banaka and try to get some Old Spice, clack, 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 and get rid of the smell and shit. But weed was crazy because I see people get burnt out when they smoke weed, right? And I call that getting stoned. I've always got high when I smoke weed. So whenever I smoke weed, I wanted to read a book or do push-ups or go hiking or play sport or make music, you know what I mean? And it always turned my brain on. And then I seen some people that smoke and they wanted to sit there and eat and watch TV. So I call that getting stoned, and I call what I do getting high. And another thing about weed is everybody shouldn't smoke weed, man, because it ain't for everybody. You know, some people, I got friends who drink, they have 2 drinks, they want to fight. I got friends that drink, they laugh, and they just want to have a good time and party, okay? And it's the same with weed, you know. Some motherfuckers, you need to master yourself and understand what your chemicals in your body and how they work. So if weed makes you inspired and want to go do different things and give you introspective good thoughts, cool. But if it makes you fucking want to watch fucking TV and eat and fall asleep every time, then stop smoking, bro, because you're not being productive. Yeah, fuck. I was probably in high school. I remember smoking, but I didn't really like the bong so much. I liked the chalice better. I had Jamaican friends, we smoked a chalice. A chalice is pretty much a water pipe, a different kind of water pipe. Bongs used to make me choke. You know what I mean? They're cool, it's clean, but I prefer more of like something that wasn't as powerful. But yeah, it was probably that age. That was probably when I did it. I had the beat, I made the beat. Me and Beaver was in the room talking, and we was talking about like, we had already blown up, and then we was coming back. I was like, let's do a concept song about weed, but what hasn't anybody ever done? And in the hood, they didn't smoke bongs. That was more like a high times rock and roll type of a thing, you know what I mean? So I was always tapped into that culture. So and B knew about it. So I was like, let's talk about a bong. So as we're working on the song together, I just gave him ideas. He wrote it all. But I was like, yo, when you drop the bong on the floor, because everybody dropped the bong on the floor and your fucking room smells like shit, right? So we were just visualizing ideas and coming up with ideas, and I was just feeding him ideas, and we was building back and forth, and he wrote the whole shit, and we did it in the room, and I wanted to use the drums from Bismarck, You Got What I Need, Only a Friend, because those drums were like, when those drums came on, man, the Lee Dorsey drums, it was like, yo, that shit was, they just sounded dope every fucking time. They just banged. So, and Son of a Preacher, man, I grew up with classic rock and roll, so I used a lot of classic rock samples early on, man, and it was always about using samples that nobody ever used, nobody thought about using, you know. And so that's why I used Son of a Preacher Man, Dusty Springfield. My mom had the record, actually. I remember growing up looking at the cover all the time. And yeah, that's where it came from, man. And when I made the beat, I sampled the sample, and then I made the drums later, but I used the SP1200. One thing about the SP1200 is you can't micro fine tune it. You can only go from 100 to 106 to 112. So you can only move in increments of 6. So I would try to get the tempo as close as I could with the record, play the sample on the turntable, and it's a little bit off. So if you go listen to it and you mute it, the drums kind of got a little skip in them, which is a trip, you know. But it gives a song a vibe and gives it a certain swing. And I thought the song was really good and really fun. By no means did I think it would be this big and be with this much of an impact on the culture and have the legs it had to be standing the test of time like this to still inspire people. I don't think there's a song written about a bong before or since that song. You know what I mean? When I finished this record, Soul Assassins, I wasn't sure if I was going to put it out because I was like, how are we going to present this to the people now? I don't want to shoot a music video. I've done over 100 music videos. I'm like, they're boring, same shit. I was like, what do we do? Then I was like, hey man, come by the studio. I played him the record. I was like, I want to do a 10-minute movie. And he's like, damn, that's going to be hard. 10 minutes is a lot of work. And I said, fuck. So we came up with a bunch of ideas, and we ended up doing a 35-minute movie. We shot it in Los Angeles. We shot it in Oakland. We shot it in San Francisco. We shot it in Death Valley. Shot it in Las Vegas. And it took about 6 months from beginning to end shooting to post-production. And I just wanted to do something different that I'd never done before, to give this another vehicle and just something just to fuck with my own brain, you know what I mean? And do something creatively different that was challenging. And I didn't want to make a regular movie. I wanted to do something a little bit like a mind fuck. And this is where I was inspired by Jodorowsky, because when he did Holy Mountain, he said he wanted to make a movie that made you feel high without you having to be high. So that's what I did with this. So it's the first psychedelic hip hop movie. Yeah, so there was an idea at the beginning, let's use Goodfellas. And I was the movie Goodfellas, the voice from Ray Liotta, and I was like, nah, man, I don't want to sample anything, because it started reminding me of an old mixtape from 2001, 2002, when everybody was sampling Goodfellas. So they wanted to use Ray Liotta, and I said, cool, but it has to be original. And they looked at me all crazy, and I looked back at them all crazy. I go, then don't do shit then, but it has to be original, man. So we ended up we wrote everything original. We used AI to create Ray Liotta's voice. So we still got the spirit of how the spirit of Goodfellas makes you feel through Ray Liotta's voice, but we used AI for that. I hope I could learn. I'm not smart with computers, but maybe one day I'll learn and I'll have time. I don't got a lot of time either. I got shit to do. But maybe. I don't never shun technology. I think technology is beautiful. I think you have to use it and utilize it as a tool and put it in your toolbox and move forward with it. And, you know, don't ever be a motherfucker that says, fuck that. We got to do it the OG way. Nah, embrace technology and use it. You know, and grow with it and understand it. That's what I say about that, but see what happens. The first time I did mushrooms, they gave me an 1/8. And I was tripping balls, you know what I mean? But now I just microdose now. And, you know, a lot of jiu-jitsu fighters use mushrooms to fight, microdose to figure things out. I know a lot of ultra marathon runners, they run 100 miles in 24 hours. Because what it does is it takes away the mind and the body, the connection, and it takes it away. So the brain doesn't feel the pain anymore, so you can go for longer. So if I'm working out, you know, going for a hike and going to the ocean, I'll microdose mushrooms. No, sometimes, not never, but it's not my go-to, you know what I mean? It depends what stage I'm in. Maybe if I'm making beats, nah, but if I'm done mixing and I want to listen, then I'll listen like that, and then I'll get ideas and go, oh, I could go change this and fix this, because I'm at the end now, right? And I'll go back and make my little tweaks. But yeah, sometimes, you know, you worked on something for so long that you want to listen to it from a different frame of mind. So I'll go to another studios and listen to it in this guy's studio. I'll go to his studio. Then maybe I'll do some mushrooms and go to another studio and listen. You know, or be by myself and turn the lights off and listen. Yeah, but I haven't done acid since the 90s. I don't really fuck with it no more. I am acid. I don't need no drugs and I could be high as fuck. I think Freddie Gibbs is one of the most talented rappers in the game right now. You know what I mean? I think he's one of the most versatile rappers to be able to go from style to style to style. I think his longevity is beautiful. And the thing about Freddie, I think he's in his prime, you know, and I think he has a lot of growing to do as an artist, you know, from acting, from music. I think he has an amazing, I think he's got a great personality. He's funny as fuck. He doesn't take none of this shit serious. He's clowning all the time, you know what I mean? So I think he's gonna have a bright future. I hope he keeps his sunglasses very, very close. I drive around, I listen to Supercat, I listen to Led Zeppelin, I listen to 80s punk rock, I listen to 80s new wave music, I like the P-52s, you know what I mean? I like lo-fi. I don't really listen to, so I listen to Rock the Bells radio that plays all the old rap from the 80s and 90s, but I listen to none of this new shit. The only time I do is on my radio show when Brown doesn't mix or Earn Dog, and sometimes if there's an album, I might listen to it one time just to hear like what they did. That's the most I listen to rap anymore. Bro, these motherfuckers would raid the bus all the time in Europe, especially on the French border, waiting for us. When we got to the venues, they say, if you smoke, we're taking you to jail. I remember us smoking and getting chased. You know what I mean? A lot of shit, like, lots of stories. Yeah, the cops would just wait for us and say, don't smoke, and then we would smoke, and then we have to get the fuck out of there. And sometimes you couldn't go back to certain cities because they have a warrant for you in those cities, you know what I mean? We used to bring about 20 pounds of weed with us. And then we would sell weed to all the other groups because we had the best weed. So we used to sell weed in the streets and we made demos and we didn't make good music yet. So after about a year or two, our demos got good. We kept selling weed. And then we started making money, we stopped at the beginning. Then it was like, why did we stop? So after about 1 year, we started selling weed again. But then we got smart because we'd go on tour. So we'd start selling weed to all the weed dealers in different cities because we already met them. So we'd bring pounds for them, and then we'd bring all the weed for all the other groups on the tour and all the other crews. So there might be 200 people on tour that all needed good weed. So we sold weed to everybody on tour. We had a tour bus, so we'd pack it up, 20, 30 pounds of weed, and then nobody would check your bus. They didn't know we was moving weed across the country. Now we still sell weed, but now it's legal. 1991, it was dope back then because, you know, it was just Amsterdam. You always heard about it. You know, go to the Bulldog, right? Sit down and like fucking have a beer or a tea and smoke some weed. It was different at that time. And then I remember smoking hash with a cigarette the first time and like, oh, this shit is good. You know, just different experiences. So like when you do shit for the first time, it blows your mind, right? So that shit was good. Now Amsterdam's boring. You know, and like the cafes are boring now. You can smoke weed everywhere. You know what my consumption lounge, my cafe is my studio. I have a big studio, I have a gym, I have a kitchen, I have a barbecue, I have 3 studios. So all my friends come there, we smoke and we get creative. 50 Cent was a brand new artist. He didn't have an album out yet. He only had In the Club and Wankster. And I remember going to the gym at 5 in the morning. And 50 Cent was coming out of the gym. When I was going in, he was already done. That motherfucker's been focused, hard working. Every time we had a day off, he would stay in the city or go to the studio. While we was drinking and partying, he would stay in the studio. Then he'd fly to the next city. And he worked every day on every day off. He rented a studio in another city while we were partying. And I remember looking back like, this motherfucker's on some shit. And God bless that man, he's fucking dope as fuck. I run into him, you know, every 5 or 6 years, but I'm not in contact. We're not friends. You know, we just know probably of each other, that's it. You gotta be cool as fuck, man. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, I gotta like your shit, and that's cool. But then there's a lot of people that got good music that are just weirdos. And then if I like you and you're cool, and we laugh and we have a good time, right? Then I could work with you. Because now that I work with you, I gotta take 45 days or 30 days. Even if you rap for 3 days, you leave, I still gotta finish your music for you. So now I gotta be away from my other shit I gotta do. You know what I mean? And a lot of these artists, you don't make no money from them because I'm not in this shit for money. But I gotta like you. I gotta like you to take my time and my energy. You know, life is short. Well, for me, it was Studio 4 doing the 783 album. Studio 4, 444 4th Street, and that's when I learned a lot of shit. That was legendary for me. Session with Wyclef and Jerry Wonder doing the remix for actually doing John 3:16 for the first Soul Assassin record. That was legendary. When I did Third World with RZA and Jizza, and Ghost was there, and Ghost wanted to get on it, and RZA was like, nah, he has enough of the Wu-Tang on this album already, because I already had Jizza and RZA and La. You know what I mean? So those was legendary sessions. Working with Dr. Dre when he rapped on Puppet Master, because Dr. Dre didn't rap on nobody's records. RZA didn't rap on nobody's records. You know what I'm saying? Working with Mobb Deep on that first record, just like that kind of shit. Being able to work with all these cats that I liked. You know what I mean? The only person I still want to work with that I haven't ever, just one person, is Sade. We did a couple songs we were gonna put out for 420, but there's no album. I'd love to do an album. We just got to figure it out. We got to be in the studio together. Everybody's busy, man. You know, and I don't do records over the internet. If I can't be in a room with you, I can't make a record.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? My mom was mad as fuck. Because my mom's from the 50s. Now you got to think the hippies came around in the late 60s, and that was my mom's younger brother. So my mom thought the hippies were some drug addict weirdos. So my mom hated fucking weed, bro. She would fucking yell and scream and call me names and fucking sock me in the head. Bah! And I was like, who got the last laugh now, motherfucker? Here's a house for you. Shout out to cannabis, shout out to weed, shout out to rap music too. Thanks to all the party people out there in Germany, big up. Yep. All my weed smoking motherfuckers, yep. Don't ever call that shit cannabis either, you fucking weirdos. It's just called weed.